Hi guys, and today I thought we would just discuss baler knives, whether it be round baler or square baler, or even for that matter a forged wagon. Not so common in the US, but they are out there. Of course, pretty straightforward. Cutting edge, your locking slot, and then where the actual safety mechanism sits. So a lot of times what will happen is guys will neglect to sharpen these. Typically you want to look at possibly doing that, depending on the crop, somewhere around 500 bales. So that's where, if you have a high count knife tray, you could run half the knives in, and then as these start to get dull, you could switch over, run that other half of the knife tray. That way you could get more time in the field and less time, of course, sharpening. But nonetheless, if you are doing the sharpening and the dealer is not doing the sharpening, a couple things you want to know is you never sharpen on the serrated side here. You always sharpen on the back side here, where there's just a little bit of a bevel. When you go to do this, say with an angle grinder or a sanding disc, you're going to want to throw the sparks, the heat, into the knife. What you do not want to do is grind so where you're throwing the heat towards the edge, or you will harden the edge of the knife. Now you may think that would be a good thing, but in all reality it makes it extremely brittle. So if you had any foreign objects coming through the baler, of course, you're gonna dull the knife really quick. If you neglect to sharpen the knives, a couple things will happen. One, you'll definitely notice the draw in horsepower. And of course, the more power you're using, the more fuel you're consuming. Most of you guys have seen it, our fuel prices are rising, so that's a big deal there. Second is wear in the knife tray. So what happens is, as you can imagine, as you're feeding crop in, it's coming across the knife. Well, if the knife is extremely dull, the crop hits the knife and acts in this kind of motion instead of the crop being cut by the knife. When that happens, the knife is rocking, especially when you're coming in and out of windrows, your knife is rocking in the tray. Well, that rocking effect turns into wear. So you can see that hole is quite oblonged out there, and also on the back side here, and you can also see wear on the neck of this knife. So with that, you start to wear a groove in your locking bar. So as time progresses, and if this gets too much, what will happen is you have the potential to lose that knife in the bale. Of course, you definitely don't want that. Also, you wore a groove in the locking bar. So on newer balers, I don't know the actual year, but on newer balers, you can see on the outside there's a couple extra holes drilled in the actual locking bar where you can shift that locking bar over and start a new wear groove. Now, when you go to do that, of course, you're going to want to run new knives because you've already, worn your old knives to the point where there is a lot of movement on the locking bar and, again, accelerating the wear. But getting back to that motion, as we move into the crop, that force is either wearing here or even potentially tripping the knife. Of course, this mechanism in the back is designed for when objects like rocks or something foreign in the windrow get sucked into the baler, that the knife has the ability to trip out of the way and not damage, of course, the cutting rotor. So you also start wearing the trip mechanism on the back side of the table as well. So that's why it's extremely important that these knives are sharpened often. Again, it really depends on the crop conditions, on how often they should be sharpened. But you can definitely tell the difference between sharp and dull knives and the load on the tractor. Other than that, if you do have a cutter baler and you're not wanting to cut the crop and you're worried about chaff getting in between the knife and causing issues with trying to get the knives up, there are blanks that are available that you can put in there instead of running knives to try to keep that knife tray a little cleaner. And there are also a few different versions of the knife. Of course, there's a soft steel and a hardened steel. Again, that really depends on your conditions, if you have a lot of rocks or not. Of course, you're not going to want to run the hardened knife in a real rocky condition, or you're going to definitely damage the knife. So there is the curved, and then there is also a straight knife. Again, it really depends on your conditions and what you're trying to achieve. So anyhow, I hope you guys found this useful, and definitely take note that it's very important to be sharpening these knives, not only for, you know, fuel efficiency, but to reduce excessive wear in your knife tray. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.